Hi, I'm Dana, and I usually look a good bit better than this, to be honest with you, if this is the first video of mine you're seeing. I'm usually a bit more upbeat than I'm probably going to be in this video. I've got a hair in my mouth. Oh, I haven't even turned on my light. Oh, the angle's changed now. I'd normally edit that out and start again, but I think that's the perfect introduction to how I'm feeling. So this video is about meltdowns because I haven't made one of them yet. And the day before yesterday, I had a really horrible meltdown. So it felt like a good time to talk about it while it's still kind of fresh in my mind. A lot of the time, personally, I can suppress my meltdowns. I don't have meltdowns very often. I'm able, it's not a good thing. I'm not advertising this as a little tip or trick, but I am very good at just suppressing emotions and pretending I'm all right. And for the most part, I'm able to do that when it comes to meltdowns. I don't have meltdowns often. Probably maybe twice a year, maybe. And that's purely because I'm able to suppress them and push them down and turn them into other things. And it's not healthy, it's not good. I probably shouldn't do it. But I find meltdowns exhausting and embarrassing and kind of scary. So I do what I can to avoid them. And the best thing to do would be to put mechanisms and coping things into place to not have to deal with them at all. But a lot of the things that cause them are things that I don't have control over. So it's just how it be, I can't really change it. Usually when I can tell that a meltdown's coming on, I'm able to sort of push it down and suppress it into a shutdown instead. I have quite a lot of shutdowns. I can sort of do a little thing where I become not a person in my brain for a bit. I'm assuming it's probably depersonalization or something like that, disassociation, something. I do something where I'm there, I'm in my mind, I'm alive, but I also I can go for a walk and not remember where I've walked because I was just looking down at my feet the whole time and not being a person. I don't remember what music I listened to or it's I remember it, but I don't it's not a blackout. It's just my brain decided to turn off on itself for 4 hours, and I sort of vaguely remember going through the motions of being a person, but I wasn't there for any of them. I'm able to turn meltdowns into that more often than not. And for me, also, overstimulation tends to lead to shutdowns instead of meltdowns. It's not really a trigger for meltdowns for me. If I've been overstimulated, it tends to mean that I've been masking heavily all day. So once I am no longer in that situation, I just shut down. I've just got nothing left and I'm just there but not, But every now and again, I can't do that. Sometimes I'm just, the meltdown be coming. A lot of the time, including this time, it's usually a day when I've had a lot of high anxiety. It tends to be around relationships and the in my life, having any sort of argument, any sort of conflict with anyone, especially if it's at a time when I'm already not doing my best, is pretty much guaranteed to lead me to meltdown, and it's very not fun. This time around, and indeed most times, I'd had a really bad day. I'd had maybe 4 or 5 small panic attacks through the day where I was shaking and couldn't breathe and crying and just not having a fun time. And that, it was after the second or third one that I was oh, I see what's coming. Because that was the point where I was starting to be yo, I am mentally so tired. I am emotionally exhausted. And I'm only going to be able to continue getting through this for so long, it's going to be a meltdown. So meltdowns for me are very tense. They're hard to explain, so please sort of hang on with me. It's obviously, number one, there's something intense going on. I feel very intense emotion, usually very negative intense emotion. It's my meltdowns tend to be quite fueled by anxiety, by panic, by that type of thing. Or situations where I feel I can't get out of them, or I feel something big's going to change and I can't stop it from changing, things like that. So I get a very, very big feelings that I can't really put my finger on, to be honest. I just know they're big negative feelings. And then I start to cry. And then it sort of feels like someone's put on a movie around me. It's like someone's made a film of my life, but everything's just a little bit wrong, They've done it really well. It's very similar to my life, but it's the books are wrong, and the pictures that I'm used to having on the walls are wrong, and the things that I'm used to a slightly different colour, it's just not quite right. They've done their best, but they haven't quite nailed it. and I'll be looking around and just nothing seems quite right, nothing seems as familiar as it should be, including people, which is, you know, it's scary when it just feels like nothing's quite right. I get a lot of energy and tension in my body. I shake a lot. I can't help it. It's really tiring. Like, it hurts. It hurts to have a meltdown. It physically hurts me to have a meltdown because my whole body like tenses up and starts shaking and I can't make it stop, and it's painful. And, you know, like, sometimes stimming does help that, and other times, like, it's so bad that I can't really stim anyway. And I also really prefer to resort to self-harm stims when I'm having a meltdown, which I try to avoid, you know. I don't want to be punching myself, but that's, any sort of like intense pressure or pain just feels like it's able to take my mind off it a little bit. And I have tried using a weighted blanket while I'm having a meltdown to see if that helps, and it's one of those where, like, it's better than nothing, but I need it to be like 10 times heavier than it is, you know? Like, I need it to be squashing me, not just a little bit of weight, so it doesn't really help. If I'm not, if I'm on my own, I do also tend to make a lot of vocal stims, and I will like scream a little bit into a pillow, things like that. A lot of my meltdowns are caused by something someone has said. Like, a lot of meltdowns for me are the straw that broke the camel's back, you know? Like, I've had a lot of stuff that I'm trying to deal with that's really like overwhelming me and feeling like a lot, and it just takes one small thing to be like, okay, that's the bottle's full and it's time for a meltdown. So quite often it is caused by something relatively minor that someone said, and I will like repeat the phrase or the word or whatever it was they said, and I don't really want to because it's something that's like inspired a meltdown and really probably upset me, but my brain isn't mine while I'm having a meltdown, and that's what it chooses to do. You know, and that's really what it feels like for me, I think, for the most part. That's the frustrating part, is that it feels like I'm not in control of my brain. It feels like I mean, I literally can't process things while I'm having or just after or just before a meltdown. So, like, I don't always notice that people are speaking to me during a meltdown. It takes me a while to tune in and be like, oh, you're saying something, I need to listen. And even then, it's very, very hard to actually focus on what they're saying and actually listen to any words. And I am quite like a word-based person. I like to be told like it's gonna be okay, you're fine, you're loved, you know, nice things, whisper reassurances to me, please. But I might not notice them for a while. And it's one of those things where, like, I have never ever judged anyone else's meltdown, you know, even the ones that you see online that probably weren't posted with the person's permission and perhaps shouldn't have been posted at all because they're quite, you know, I don't want to say dramatic because it's not dramatic, it's how someone feels in that moment, but the ones that are a little more painful to watch, I guess. You know, the meltdown is hard enough to go through because it lasts a while for me. Like, a meltdown's gonna be at least an hour, and it's not a fun hour, and it takes so long to recover because, like I say, it doesn't feel like my brain's mine. It literally feels like I've like lost a bit of my brain. I don't feel like I can process things even after the meltdown. I don't feel like I can think as quickly as I usually would. I don't feel like my brain's making the same connections it normally does. I don't feel like I can mask in the same way. And, you know, as someone who, like, my mask is my personality, I don't really know all that much of who I am without it. It's kind of horrifying. I'm very physically, emotionally and mentally just fucking exhausted from it. And the most frustrating and shitty part of it for me is the way that it makes me feel, because I had a tangent that my brain lost a moment ago, because, you know, I mask very heavily. I can, for the most part, come across as like an holistic person, as though I'm not autistic, you know. I can come across as pretty much a neurotypical, maybe a slightly awkward one, but I put a lot of effort into masking, whether that's subconscious or conscious, and it feels like a failure on my behalf to have a meltdown, you know? It makes me feel really stupid. It makes me feel like a complete outlier from everyone else. It makes me feel really immature and childish, and like I'm never going to be able to cope with the world or with life, because, you know, I'm not coping. I'm having a meltdown and it sucks, and I'm gonna be like dealing with the repercussions of that for like days to come, like I am today, because I haven't done anything in like 3 days and I feel horrific about myself, but I also just don't have the energy or like the brain power to think about it. Like, I noticed cat food on the floor while I was making my cuppa this morning. I was like, oh, I'd better brush that up. And once I'd brushed that up, I was like, oh, well, the rest of the floor's looking a bit glossy. I should hoover up. So I hoovered up and I was like, oh, I forgot to wipe down the table. So I'm going to have to wipe down the table and then hoover around the table. So I did all these, like, other bits. And then I was like, oh, I've left a cuppa on the side with the tea bag still in it and not actually made my cup of tea. Because my brain can only focus on what's right in front of it. Like, it's just the very front part of my brain is working and the rest of it is turned off. But yeah, I've said many a time in videos that I don't see being autistic as a positive or a negative. It's just a thing that I am. And it's this period after a meltdown that's just not true. Having meltdowns makes me, like, really hate being autistic. It makes me hate being the person that I am. I hate that I am this way. You know, some of it's the situations that lead to them as well, because it tends to be when I've misunderstood something or done something wrong because I'm autistic. And, you know, it's purely for the effort of, like, making sure anyone else feeling like this isn't going alone. Is purely for anyone else who feels like this, so that you know that you're not alone. It's those moments where all I think is, I wish I was fucking normal. I wish I wasn't autistic. I wish I wasn't neurodivergent. I wish I could just be fucking normal and process things and understand things and think things the way that everyone else does. You know, it's that whole, like, why does it have to be fucking me, you know? And I know that it's something that'll pass. I know that I only feel like this because I'm tired and embarrassed from my meltdown, even though it didn't even fucking happen in front of anyone. You know, like, it's just such a horrible thing to have to go through. And it makes me really resent having to go through it when other people don't have to. You know, most parts of being autistic, I'm like, oh, it's just a little difference. It's a quirky little difference. It's what makes the world go round. We all need to be different people. And this is the thing where I'm like, no, I don't want to be different. I don't want this. It doesn't feel fair, you know? Why should I have to, like, have these extreme strong emotions and go through this, like, horrible event just because I'm autistic, just because my brain's like this? I don't want it. Make it stop. And like I say, that's not how I normally feel, and I know it'll go away again. But sometimes being autistic fucking sucks. That's the base of it, you know? On the other side of that though, for the longest time I thought I'd only had meltdowns in childhood because I do suppress them so well, and I thought that it was just really bad panic attacks when I had meltdowns in the past. But then I realised, like, oh, I have panic attacks in the lead up to it, and then I have this big massive giant thing that I'm pretty sure must be a meltdown. And then I googled about meltdowns and did the little checklist of, like, yep, that's what I deal with. But in my childhood I definitely had more of what we, like, think of when we think of a meltdown, you know? I wasn't as embarrassed to show my emotions. I wasn't as good at suppressing things as I am now. So I had pretty obvious meltdowns as a kid. And they were always just seen as temper tantrums and, like, wiped off. And no one supported me, no one cared about it. It was just Dana having a temper tantrum. And it wasn't. It was me having meltdowns and being extremely emotionally distressed and being left to just deal with it on my own. All through childhood, all through my teen years, and up to fucking now. And, you know, it's one of those things where I would really like support through meltdowns, but I'd also be absolutely humiliated to have anyone see me like that. So that's all I have to say. I really hope you've enjoyed this jam-packed comedy hour video. I know it's been my funnest one yet. I'm sure you're all leaving with a smile. No, it's a shitty topic and I feel like shit, but it'll pass and it'll get better and it'll be okay again. You know, I'm feeling like shit. My brain's been like, yeah, until the fucking next one. But that be life. What you gotta do about it, that's how it is. I will say, if you did come to this video for some sort of tip or trick, pets are great. I always have a cat with me during a meltdown. Somebody always comes over. And it's very comforting. And I really don't know what I'd do without my cats. They help me through a lot. It's really lovely to just have a living thing that cares about you, that doesn't fucking talk. But I am gonna go. As always, I'd love to hear anything you have to say about this topic in the comments. I know it's gonna be a rough one. Don't feel like you do need to, like, trauma dump or tell me your life story, but if you want to, I'm always open to that. Like, so many of you leave me really lengthy, interesting comments, and then you're like, oh, sorry for writing so much, sorry for telling you my life story. I love it. Tell me it all. I really, really enjoy reading your comments, and you know, like, as much as lots of you say, like, these videos and the stuff that I've put out makes you feel less alone, having you respond and tell me that you've also gone through it makes me feel a lot less alone. And it's nice. I like having this little place to drop thoughts and whatever the fuck else we do here. So whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, day, afternoon, week, month, year. And I'll, fingers fucking crossed, see you again in a few days. Oh no, what, Ali? I don't know what to do now there's a cat on me. She's being really cute. I can't just get up. I can't, you're not letting me. I know, baby, I know. This is Ali. She looks so pissed off. Oh, you're all hooked on me. I've got 4 cats, but not many of them. I mean, 3 of them make appearance. Jodie's, they've all been in videos, but like 3 of them look basically the same, so.